Hello, football fans, and welcome back to Goalside. Not all football stories turn out the same, as you've probably seen during your time following the sport. Some amazing wonder kids who lit up the world last year may now be dragging their feet in the tiny leagues. Club legends may have disgraced their names by committing unforgivable acts before the eyes of their fans. Certain award-winning managers may now be condemned to trophy droughts that last years or even decades. It's very difficult for a player to maintain their highest level, or at least as close as they can be to it, for many years in the top leagues of Europe or the world and go on to become a legend in the beautiful game. Even tougher is for a world-class player to become a class manager who can show the world that they can do it at every level, not just as a player. In a previous video, we talked about managers who had actually been decent players, such as the mighty Sir Alex Ferguson himself, fiery Jurgen Klopp, genius Pep Guardiola, magical Zinedine Zidane, and lethal Jupp Heynckes. All of these have done an incredible job as both a player and a manager, accomplishing enormous feats in their leagues and in others, leaving behind a worthwhile legacy that we will talk about for years. In England, there's a manager who, despite his little experience in being thrown into a situation that seemed hopeless and out of his depth, has shown all the signs of becoming one of the next Premier League greats, and all at the helm of the club where he became an England and EPL legend, Chelsea FC. We are talking, of course, about Frank Lampard's illustrious career, the career of a man who, seemingly, has accomplished it all. Frank Lampard must have never imagined a year ago that he'd be where he is now, managing a second-tier championship side Derby County during the entirety of the 2018-19 season. Having a decent season in which he knocked Manchester United out of the EFL Cup at Old Trafford, was involved in an all-out war with Leeds manager Marcelo Bielsa, led his side to the championship playoffs for promotion to the Premier League, and lost to the final to Aston Villa, as well as winning 24 matches in 57. It typically would never have been anywhere near enough for him to end up taking the reins at a Premier League club the size of Chelsea, but he did, somehow. Stuck in the midst of a crisis with their Europa League winning manager leaving at the end of the season after being horribly mistreated, their overall best player in the form of Eden Hazard gone to Real Madrid, and a massive, crushing transfer ban looming over them, Chelsea looked doomed to end the 2019-20 season in the lower half of the table. Even more after their first game of the Premier League season, in which they were battered 4-0 by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United. Since then, however, Frank Lampard and his boys have truly turned it around like true inspired legends know how to do. But where did this never-say-die attitude begin? To whom can it be attributed that Lampard is such a determined football star in both his playing and managerial career? This magnificent midfielder story begins in the London borough of Havering on June 20th of the year 1978. He was born to mother Patricia Harris, who sadly died in April 2008 to pneumonia, and to father Frank Lampard Sr., an incredibly bright man with an unusually high IQ score, who shocked the Mensa Society when he passed their test with flying colors. Lampard could have been anything he wanted. Why do we say this? He was an excellent student, for starters, achieving 11 GCSEs before his graduation in 1994. He was also highly skilled in languages, scoring one of the highest grades in Latin. But more importantly, it was his genes and blood themselves that decided he could be a wonderful football player. Frank Lampard Sr., if you are unaware, is a West Ham legend who played 551 matches for the Hammers during the late 1960s, 70s, and up to the mid-80s. He is also the brother-in-law to Harry Redknapp and uncle to Jamie Redknapp. Thus, football was always present in Frank Jr.'s life. And not just football, but the highest category of English football, considering his dad had played with World Cup winners and his uncle with all the foreign stars the Premier League started importing during the 90s and early 2000s. So, it would come as no surprise that Frank decided to follow in his father's footsteps and joining West Ham United's academy in 1994, growing into an admirer of yet another Frank McAvenny, a striker who scored 33 goals in 85 appearances for the Hammers. Frank's father was an assistant coach while he was there, but that doesn't mean that there was a certain level of bias or favoritism. He had to work his socks off for a chance at the youth team and managed to earn his professional contract 1 year after joining. He would be loaned out to second division Swansea City immediately in October of 1995 and managed to get 9 matches and 1 goal there as a 17-year-old before returning to the Hammers. His first real chance at West Ham was imminent. And it came, thankfully, in January of 1996, in which he starred only as a substitute but got at least some valuable minutes on the pitch. 1996 and 1997 were forgettable years for him, as he appeared little after his debut and had his leg broken during a match against Aston Villa. But even worse was that Lampard remembers being jeered by West Ham fans as the stretcher carried him off with his broken leg, leading him to consider quitting football for good. However, as all the best players, he was about to silence his detractors in an incredible style by coming on as a 76-minute substitute on the first match of the 97-98 season and scoring a goal in just over a minute to win the match for his side against Barnsley, as well as scoring a hat-trick just a few months later. He was one of the key players in helping West Ham reach 5th place in the league during the following season, which is the highest West Ham have ever finished in their Premier League history. The 1999-2000 season was also a success for him, as he scored goals in both the Intertoto Cup and UEFA Cup, as well as the league, amassing a massive 14 goals from midfield, ending as the club's third top goal scorer. Already, there were important clubs looking to sign him, but it would take another season for that to happen. The 2000-2001 season was his last at West Ham, with a terrible league position, finish 15th after having finished 5th, and both Uncle Harry Redknapp and Frank Sr. being asked to leave the club. Frank Jr. decided that it was time to move on from being in his father's shadow, and at a club which had mistreated his two mentors so badly. Chelsea, the place where he would build his legacy, were instants away from signing him. His first years at Chelsea, 2001 to 2004, were decent seasons for Frank, who scored important goals and won both the Premier League Player of the Month and PFA Fans Player of the Month during the 2003-04 season, as well as arriving second after Thierry Henry and the 2004 FWA Footballer of the Year award placement. Still, it would be his 2004-05 and 2005-06 seasons that set the world alight, turning him into, arguably, one of the world's top 3 players at the time. Scoring 19 goals and achieving 16 assists in the 2004-05 season, these included brilliant goals in the UEFA Champions League, in which he helped Jose Mourinho's Chelsea knock FC Barcelona out of the competition. More importantly, however, he was named Barclays Player of the Season and 2005 Footballer of the Year for his exploits, and helped earn his club their first Premier League title in 50 years, as well as the Football League Cup. In the 2005-06 season, Frank Lampard would score more goals than ever, reaching 16 in the league alone, 12 of which he scored in the first 4 months of the competition. Early into the season, he was named runner-up to Ronaldinho in the Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year race, but many considered him to be more talented than the Brazilian, including his manager, Jose Mourinho. Mourinho's men would go on to win the Premier League once again, frustrating Sir Alex Ferguson's United for the second time in a row, this time breaking the total points record for a whole season, 91 points. Most home points, 55. Most home wins, 18. Most consecutive wins from the start of a season, 9. And fewest home defeats, 0. It was an astonishing continuation to a couple of years that had seen him named as England's Player of the Year in both 2004 and 2005. It also saw him participate in Euro 2004 and the 2006 FIFA World Cup, although he didn't impress greatly in either. Continuing into Euro 2008, this form would see him booed by the same English fans who had voted him Player of the Year twice, and it could be said that Lampard would never really be a star of his national team despite his club form. Lampard would continue his immense success at Chelsea with more and more cups over the years, 2007, 2009, 2010, and the 2012 would see Lampard lift FA Cup titles. 2007 provided him with a League Cup, and he won another Premier League title in 2009 and 10. But it wasn't until the 2011 and 12 season when he won the biggest trophy, the UEFA Champions League. It was a stellar performance from the midfielder from beginning to end of the tournament, including an unforgettable win at Naples after the Italian side had beaten Chelsea at home 3-1. Lampard would go on to assist the equalizer against FC Barcelona in the crucial semi-final and scored one of the penalties in the final against Bayern Munich. He was the team's top scorer and held the captain's armband several times due to John Terry's untimely suspension. It was also the first time Chelsea had won the biggest European trophy there is. The 2012-13 season followed, and although the unstoppable form of Manchester United led them to a comfortable title win, Chelsea had an interesting time in Europe, leading the worst Champions League title defense ever. They were knocked out of the competition and into the Europa League after coming third in their group. However, this was a bit of a blessing, as the Londoners would go on to win the tournament, lifting yet another trophy in a short time and leading Lampard to become the club's second highest goal scorer of all time. A final season at Chelsea, which was subpar for the Londoners, ended in Lampard deciding to head to the MLS, where he would supposedly play for New York City. This was seen as a front, however, as he traveled to England soon after to play an entire season with Manchester City. He would score a dramatic last-minute equalizer for the citizens against Chelsea in a match that shocked the world, ending Chelsea's perfect winning streak they'd had until that moment. although the Blues still won the title at the end of the season. Lampard returned to New York City FC, where he played his last 2 seasons of football before retiring on February 2, 2017. It would be another year and a few months before he was appointed manager of Derby County, winner of countless trophies, an almost endless line of personal achievements, loved by all of England and most of Europe, and awarded with the priceless title of Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire by the Duke of Cambridge. Frank Lampard is one of the most decorated athletes in the world. With this new managerial challenge on his hands at Chelsea and looking quite comfortable, it's clear that Lampard is no coward when it comes to fighting obstacles on the path to glory. Will he win trophies as the Chelsea manager? We definitely believe so. Just give him time. After all, it's Frank Lampard we're talking about here. This has been all our video on the illustrious career of Frank Lampard. We hope you've enjoyed it. If so, please subscribe to Goalside. We'll see you right back here for the next one.